So Newcastle are doing pretty well these days, but it's all relative. In 2002 they were flying high in the Champions League and were beating Juventus 1-0 at St James's Park. Let's take a look at the Magpies starting 11 from that game and see where they are now. Steve Harper. Good old Steve Harper. If ever you needed an example of a man's love for a club, it was shown by Harper's willingness to sit on a bench for his hometown club for 2 decades when he could easily have gotten first team action elsewhere. Harper did finally get a chance to become Newcastle's #1 goalkeeper for a brief period when the Irishman jumped ship to Man City in January 2009, but Harper finally left the club himself in 2013, signing for Hull City and then finishing his career with, look away now Toon fans, Sunderland. The longest serving player in Newcastle's history, he's currently back where he belongs as an academy goalkeeper coach. Andy Griffin. When you have Alan Shearer, Pavel Nedved and Alessandro Del Piero on the pitch, what odds would you have gotten on the match winner being Andy Griffin? Whoever lumped on the right back scoring the winner could probably have chucked in his job and lived off those winnings for the next 5 years. This was clearly the highlight of Griffin's career, a man who specialised in mid-table mediocrity once he cut the cord with Newcastle after 6 years in 2004. He finally retired in 2014 after realising very quickly that conference football with Chester just wasn't worth his time. He's currently a coach at Newcastle under Lyme College, where he no doubt tries to work into a conversation how he once scored against Buffon on a daily basis. Andy O'Brien. Another Andy, another very average defender, another confused Italian forward line. Probably still wondering to this day how they weren't able to penetrate them. O'Brien had been tipped for big things during the 90s at Bradford City, when his future was as big as his nose, and he performed fairly well during his 4 years on Tyneside. However, mid-table mediocrity beckoned with both Portsmouth and Bolton before finishing up with Leeds and Vancouver Whitecaps. Oh, and his last ever game for the Republic of Ireland came 11 years ago in a 5-2 drubbing against Cyprus, a game which we shall never speak of ever again. Titus Bramble. Titus Bramble was once part of a side which bested Juventus. I just want you all to take that in and process it. If he doesn't have that achievement framed or at least stamped on the fridge, he's missed a trick. No, kids of the Northeast, Titus Bramble is not just an urban myth or a ghost story that your fathers used to tell you. The man actually did exist, and his ability to cause absolute mayhem in his own penalty box was unrivaled. His 5-year reign of terror was finally ended by Sam Allardyce in 2007, sold to Wigan, where his performances did improve, earning a move to Sunderland, where he was then sent off in a 5-1 defeat at St James's Park. Classic Titus. After a 4-year hiatus, the former Ipswich Town coach is currently a Stowmarket Town player coach. Aaron Hughes, an underrated character during his 9 years on Tyneside, the Northern Ireland international who has over 100 caps for his country, was sold to Aston Villa in 2005 and spent 9 more years in the top flight. Newcastle certainly didn't. At the age of 37, he's currently at Hearts after recent spells with QPR, Brighton, Melbourne and Kerala Blasters. Nobby Solano. A fan favourite on Tyneside, the Peruvian trumpeter Nalberto Solano was a dead ball specialist, and there was consternation when he was chucked out to Aston Villa in January 2004 for £1.5 million, which would be barely enough to buy a bottle of Neymar's spit these days, although I'm not sure why you'd want that. 18 months later he returned for the same fee, scoring 10 goals in 81 games. He left for West Ham in 2007 and then for Greece with Larissa the year after. A return to Peru with Universitario was next on the cards, before a return to England via Leicester City in 2009. Hull City were up next before finishing his career with Hartlepool United. Jermaine Jenas. Jermaine Jenas was tipped for big things at Newcastle. After all, he did win the PFA Young Player of the Year while at the club. However, Sir Bobby Robson's ludicrous exit hadn't affected him, and so he chose to quit the club for Tottenham. Probably a wise decision looking back at it. However, his career was saddled with injuries and he called time at the age of 31, choosing instead to spend his weeks criticising far better players in the media. Wait, that's exactly what I do. Gary Speed. Gary Speed was Mr. Consistent. The man was a virtual ever-present for the Magpies during his 6 years on Tyneside, playing 285 games and scoring 40 goals. Despite his 34 years of age, he continued that level of professionalism into Bolton Wanderers when he signed for them in 2004, playing 139 games in 3.5 seasons. He finished up his career with Sheffield United, and despite things not working out with the Blades during his 18 games as manager, he arguably set the wheels in motion for Wales' current crop of talent, winning 5 of his 10 games in charge before tragically taking his own life in November 2011, a decision that rocked the football world. Laurent Robert. On his day, Laurent Robert was one of the best left-sided players in England, and when standing over a free kick, the players in that wall were right to cover their privates. If not, then I would imagine getting a blast off one of those free kicks would certainly be a permanent contraceptive. The Frenchman scored 32 goals in 181 games for the Magpies and was a cult hero. However, he never saw eye to eye with Graham Souness, did anyone, and was booted out to Portsmouth in 2005. His career slid down the drainpipe from then on, failing to settle at Benfica, Levante, the worst Derby County side of all time, Toronto and Larissa. By the way, quick side note to Santiago Munez, stop trying to steal credit for Robert's goal. Lomana Lomana LuaLua. Yeah, you might not have heard of Lomana LuaLua in about a decade, but fear not, the man is still playing at the age of 36. The former Newcastle striker, who once scored a last-minute equaliser against the Magpies while on loan at Portsmouth, great idea to let him play, has taken in 11 moves since then. He somersaulted his way from Portsmouth to Turkish side Alsancak with Blackpool sandwiched somewhere in between. Alan Shearer. The god on Tyneside, Newcastle's record goal scorer, hung up the boots in 2006. Since then he's tried his hand at management, got relegated, and instead found life much more relaxing in the match of the day armchair. That day they decide to employ Joey Barton for that show might be when we see him running back into the management fold.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe.